Hello everybody, it's Violet here from Journal Art Paperie. I'm in the beginning of making this beautiful journal, and I thought I'd just bring you along just for the start and just to see what I'm going to be doing. It's been a while since I've actually put a video together, and lots of good reasons for that. One being I quit my nursing job. COVID was just too much, and I just thought it was time to bow out gracefully. So I've been doing some other things along the way. I've been creating some beautiful soaps and beauty products, and they can be found on my lovely website at violetgrantsoapery.com. But I'm getting back to journals and getting back to making ephemera. Now, I know that for any of you who are journal makers, you'd be well aware of the cost of time that's involved in creating these beautiful items. And for me, that's the thing that kind of keeps me from getting started on them, because there's just so much to do, so much ephemera to create. I don't typically purchase ephemera. I usually make my own, whether it's, bits and pieces of wax seals or mouldings or little artworks that I put in my journals. Most of my journals do have my own hand-painted items in. So it can take a lot more time than just cutting out ephemera from books and things like that. So anyway, I just thought I would get a start on this one. I started this one just the other day, and I thought I'd just show you where I'm up to, and I'll bring you back along the way with me just to see where I'm up to. Now, I haven't put the journal together. I've just sort of placed it the way I want it. And so yeah, let's get started on the show. This is just a lovely picture of a beautiful woman, and I've put some gold on her and popped her in this lovely little chipboard frame here, which I've decorated with gold and rose gold paint. And this beautiful little doily behind here, I've popped a little bit more gold paint on that as well. And sitting underneath here, I have this gorgeous, just a real beautiful vintage tissue type paper that came with some vintage ribbon that I purchased at a market when I was visiting Melbourne. And this here, this satin, is a vintage piece of material that I picked up at an op shop, and it's just been giving and giving and giving, and I love it. It's just such a gorgeous colour. And so I, just to stand her out a little bit, I've popped a bit of pink in there, because throughout this journal you're going to see quite a few of my shabby rose paintings as I'm making this a rose journal. And you can see by the beautiful gold roses here. This is a repurposed piece of card that already had the beautiful gold roses on it. So what I've done is I've Parisian stained it so that it looks a little bit old and worn. And then I've just used this as the main card cover for the front. This here is a beautiful wax moulding that I've made from one of the IOD molds that you can purchase online. And I love putting the wax in it as well as the lovely modelling paste, but the wax just came out so beautiful, and I thought it just belonged on this particular journal, because it's not all about pinks, but it's got a lot of pink in it, but it's more of a vintage style as far as, the hues and the laces. This here's a gorgeous vintage lace as well, which I've made as the strip for the tie when I finally get to putting this together. I've stuck this down to the front cover, but that's as far as I've gotten on this one. And I've sewn some lovely what's this stuff called? I don't know, you know what it is anyway. I'll get back to it in a minute when my mind's back in order. So yeah, just placed a strip of that along each side of the strip of gorgeous lace, and that's going to be the tie. I've also placed some tea-stained gauze on here as well, and as well as just around towards the back. I did paint it gold underneath, but when I painted it gold, I thought, yeah, that's pretty much not what I really was aiming for. So I've popped this beautiful gauze over it to hide it a little bit, but also you can see some of it coming through, which really does work in well with the gold around the frame here. So we'll just move on. I'll just open up the front cover. As I said, I haven't sewn this together or anything, but this is the inside of the cover. This has been perforated already because it was stitched onto another journal. So when I removed the cover, I had these beautiful holes left in it, and so I'm leaving them there because they're going to help me when I start to sew the rest of the journal in place. And this here is the inside cover of the main part of the journal, which is just a beautiful vintage lace doily. I haven't ironed it or anything. This is how I purchased it. It's just gorgeous, all that beautiful batten work there, and the colour is as I found it. And so it's going to be stitched onto this main journal inside here. And I may leave the front part as a pocket. I may not. I may just let it stay loose in part on the front cover and then leave it as a pocket for this end here. I don't know. I haven't worked it out yet, but I'll get there, and when I do, it'll be wonderful because, yeah, I like to think that the journals that I make are going to be gorgeous, and I don't like to put things in them that I wouldn't like in my own journals. So the way that I place my journals and all the pages and everything is the way that I love it to be. So anyway, I'll figure that out when I get to it. As I said, this is just the beginning of the journal. This here is watercolour card or paper, and it's been coloured with a pink water. I think I used permanent alizarin or something to get the watercolour pink there. And what I've done here is I've just, you can see that there is a little bit of a raised area, and keeping with the rose theme, I've done this on both the covers. This is the first signature here. I've placed the paper in it. I still have more paper to go in it, but yeah, I've just made a little bit of a start pretty much. So just the inside of it. This is a bit of a card so that's nice and sturdy. You're getting two sturdy covers there. Just a piece of paper that I'll work on as I go. I'll either paint something on here or I'll place some kind of ephemera on here. And then I've just made a little bit of a start here with some of the ephemera. This is just a pocket that I've cut out, and I've put a little print of a rose very faintly in the background there, and some of that vintage ribbon. I've made this just out of, I've got some beautiful, like a vintage greaseproof paper, and I've put some vintage lace in there as well as some pattern paper, which you can see some of the designs still on it. So I've made a little flower out of that with a bit of a diamante there. This here is a piece of paper, or card rather, from Kaisercraft. There's a paper pack that they put out, and no, it's not actually a paper pack. It was a certain page of, you know how in Kaisercraft you can actually buy single pages or pieces of 12 by 12. This is one of those, and I've had it for a few years, so it was just sitting in my stash, and I thought I'll pull it out and just make a journal card out of it. So that's what I've done. I've just made a typical size journal card like this one here, just that size, and then I've folded it in two, and then I painted a little couple of watercolour roses on there, but you could journal all over that, and the roses will be in the background, so whoever purchases this when it's finished will have that. No, I didn't leave a pocket. I was just seeing if I left a pocket there, but I didn't. I just stuck it on, and so that's a journal that will close up. I may even just pop a little bit of ephemera on there, but I do love the gold, little gold hint in that. So I might leave it. Don't know yet. I'm going to work it out along the way. And I'm hoping not to say that anymore. I've already said it a few times. And I've got this gorgeous piece of vellum here that I've stuck it on. It's really a lovely sturdy piece of vellum. It's not your see-through type vellum, but it's a lovely off-white, a creamy kind of hue. This is a pocket that I've just stuck on here with glue, and I create these myself. So and I do sell those in my Etsy shop as you can either buy them as a sticker or just a die cut. So I've got a set of them, and I couldn't tell you how many's in the set, but it's really good value. So, and they're all cut out for you to add to your journals or to your cards, whatever you choose to do. But the stickers are lovely as well, because you can stick those down quite easily. And I just love the die cuts, because I'm using those quite a bit in the journals that I'm making. So yeah, I popped her on there just for now. She's not going to move. I'm just going to work out what else I'm going to do with it. Just another little print there. That's a laser print onto a piece of scrap paper. As you can see, this is quite heavily stained. It's beautiful. It's just really lovely paper, and it's been stained with Parisian essence. This is a vintage piece of paper. Even though it looks quite white, it is an old piece of paper, but I thought I'd stick that in there as well. So yeah, that's just the first signature. Another little bit of ephemera that I made this out of the Woolies bags that you can get, the brown Woolies bags if you get your shopping at Woolies. And then I've just put some lovely texture paste pattern over the top of that. That'll go in here somewhere. I'm just going to leave it out, because what I tend to do when I make my journals is I leave out the ephemera until I've sewn the journal in, and then I'll place all the ephemera. But I've got to work out what I'm going to do with each of the pages yet before I start sewing it in. And I'm going to show you some of the other ephemera that I've made in a moment. So this is just the back side of another card. We'll leave that out. The back side of the journal. Look at that. I love that. And so on the inside back, you've got the other rose here. This texture paste rose. I just want to show you so the cover is like this. You're going to get all the pages and ephemera in the first part, and you've got the lovely roses on the front here, and you've got that lovely rose there on the back. So it all ties in together. So that's just the first signature. The second signature is the same as this cover. It'll be the same. It'll be placed like that in the middle, so you'll have this nice little gap if you want to just shove anything in. But by the time I'm finished with popping the ephemera in this one, there probably won't be any room to put much in the back. And this is my typical means of doing my journals. I don't often place a lot of ephemera in the back, because the people who buy my journals also like to write in them. But for those who don't, it's just really not because I'm lazy. It's because the ephemera takes a long, long time for me to create. But it also gets too thick. So when it's closed, even though I've got this nice gap here, once I've sewn them in, I'll have this lovely gap. But it's still going to be quite a hefty thickness. So I tend to leave the last signature on its own without too much ephemera at all. Anyway, we'll just look. So another one of my roses I painted onto a glassine bag, and that will have something in it when I sew that in. Beautiful paper. I love it. Just gorgeous the way that the stain came out on that. So yeah, there's nothing much in here. I've placed some of the pages. It's not all the pages, as I said. Another one of my painted roses here. And that's the back of the journal. This is going to be folded over as a pocket, so what you see is how it will be. I will sew that down and fold it over, so there will be a pocket here to place any cards or any other journal items that whoever buys this journal would like to place. The other thing that I've decided I'm going to do with this journal, I've made another one here, which is just trying to get it in focus there. This is just a magnificent old doily. It's made up of doilies. So you've got this one here, which I've cut in half because I like to use them in other places. Left a little pocket area there. And this one here, I think I've sewn that all the way down, or I might have glued it down. But this is the front of the journal. Or you could have that as the front, but I'd have that as the front, which I think I will once I decorate it. Moving on. And I've put some beautiful, it's damask down on this. I haven't sewn this together yet. These are just the pages that'll go inside. They're just tea stained. Actually, they're not. They're Parisian Essence stained. But this is the front and the back cover, or of the inside. This gorgeous piece of vintage damask there, and the back contains the rest of that lovely vintage journal, vintage doily. So that's going to be a nice little journal that I'm going to pop inside this other journal. So when you see the price of my journal, don't freak out, because it's going to have some beautiful things in it. So this may even just go in the centre there, just sitting in. Okay, so that's just the journal start. I just want to show you some of the ephemera that will be going in this lovely. I haven't named it yet. I'd like to name my journals either with female names or just something really beautiful. Okay, so obviously we're going to have some of these journal cards just to be able to journal on. And you saw this one already, just a lovely little bag piece that's sewn down with the texture paste on there. And that'll just be, it might even be a tuck in the journal. This little darling, I love this. It's got a beautiful little wax seal on here. This is my favourite wax seal. My husband bought me this beautiful seal itself from Paris, and it was it's my favourite. So what can I say? I put it in everything I can, and I've stamped on the front and back of this. It started out to be one of these, and I've just folded it over, and it's just a little secret note where there's no paper in it. You just open it up, pop a little note in there, and then just close it back up with this piece of material that's been lovingly wrapped around it. Okay, so that's that piece. This one here, this is a frame that I've painted and crackle varnished. I'll just bring it up closer to the camera so that you can see it. It's just stunning. I love it. And I've just got to figure out where I'm going to put it in the journal, but I want to put it in this one. The last journal that I made, I had one of these on the front with a woman and some lace in there. So I'll figure it out, and it'll be lovely. So this is a chipboard piece of material, and I've painted it just to fit in beautifully with this journal. Okay, just another little hand painted piece. I'm not sure if this one will go in yet. It's just a little bit brighter pink, but it works, you know, because it's on the vintage card, and that's just a note. So it's no paper or anything in it. I'm not putting anything more in that one. The other thing is I've got this beautiful bee seal, and this is a vintage gold hue that I've made up out of a few different colours. So I'm going to be fitting this in as well somewhere. And usually I like to put some lace in on a little tag, and this is vintage lace, and I do use this quite a lot in my journals and on my ephemera. I bought a whole huge roll of it, but it is vintage, and some of it is even a little bit torn in places, but yeah, I still use it because I love it, and I love the coffee kind of colour hue there. Beautiful. This also will go in. This is a little, obviously my favourite seal, and this is vintage wallpaper. It's a wallpaper strip. It just came in the strips in a big roll, and I bought this, so it must be 35 years ago or more. I bought this lovely wallpaper, and it is vintage. And what I've done is the paper that it came with, in between the sheets of wallpaper, I've just popped them together, and I didn't sew this one. I've just tied it with a little piece of wool there. So that's just a little journal notelet that will go in this journal. The other thing I'm going to put in the journal is my lovely vintage paper. It's like a vintage wallpaper. It's not wallpaper. I printed this up onto beautiful vellum, so it's a really strong, sturdy vellum, and it came out gorgeous, just really pale and beautiful. And so I sell this online on my Etsy shop as a digital download, and it really does print up beautifully. So that's going to go in this journal somewhere. And some of these little squares are part of that digital download as well, which I've chopped up, and I'll make ephemera pieces out of that. Yeah, just a couple more there that I've just noticed. So they'll all go in. I just found another one of these little notes, and that's a darker pink, and that'll go in as well, even though I've already got one. I'm going to put a couple of those in. Another piece of my hand that's upside down, and I can only tell that by the writing that I've stamped onto here. This is beautiful photo paper, and I've painted some of my shabby style roses onto the surface of it, and I just love the way that they came out. I love the effect that it had on the photo paper, because it was a shiny photo paper, believe it or not, but it's come out matte, and it's just lovely. And I stamped some words over the top of that, so that'll go in there somewhere as well. This here is just paper that I've made and just basically embossed a little bit there. That'll go in. This here will go in because it's pink. These are a couple of my little flowers that I painted, and I scan all my paintings so that I can use them as stickers, and so yeah, I even place these on the little Chanel bottles that I painted, although I can't sell them on Etsy because they took off my listing. I didn't even think that my hand-painted Chanel bottle of perfume would be a problem, because I didn't copy it off anything but my bottle of perfume that I have. And I put some of these flowers on it, and yeah, it's a bit of a bone of contention with me, because Etsy took down my listing because I actually had the Chanel perfume bottle with my flower. So I've made stickers out of these flowers, but I've also printed them onto this gorgeous paper. This has been stained with beetroot and Parisian essence mix, just to get that lovely pink shade there. I'll see if I can find my painting of my Chanel bottle in a minute, and I'll show you just another one of my painted roses. You're going to get a lot of these in this journal. And this is a little pocket that I made on I have a cutting machine, a Cameo cutting machine. So I made the pocket, and then I painted it. Really gorgeous. I made a whole pile of these with beautiful scripture on them for the ladies in the church last year, and put a magnet on the back. There's a good idea. And yeah, just so you can pop it on the fridge and pop a note or business cards or anything in those. So yeah, that'll go in. This will go in because it's a rose and it's a bookmark, and I usually put some gauze on my bookmarks, and that's been tea stained, that one. And this is Parisian stained. You can see how dark it is. I like using the Parisian staining because it just gives such a beautiful vintage look, and it doesn't smell of coffee. And even sometimes if you use tea to stain, it can have that tea smell. If it's not a beautiful, say for instance, I were to use an Earl Grey tea, that might be different, or a French Earl Grey, which I like to drink. That might be nice, but normal tea and coffee I find are quite powerful scents, and I don't like the way they just, yeah, I don't like the smell. So I try not to use those, and I do use Parisian essence quite a bit in my staining of my papers. So yeah, that's why it has that lovely hue on the back of it. It's just gorgeous. So that'll go in. This will go in another rose, different colours, all of them. This I've just put some vintage hymn paper on there. And then I've also put my lovely paper that I bought from another Etsy shop. It seems like 20 million years ago I bought it. But this is the paper that I purchased from a lady in Paris. And she made it, and she never made any more after she made mine, which is incredible. I've still got a few of these sheets left, but I use them sparingly. And so, yeah, I've just popped a bit of scrap around the edges there just to doody-dar it up a little bit. These are just little envelopes, and they're quite ugly in the sense that they're that bright yellow, which I really don't like. It reminds me of council signs. So, but what I've done is I've actually covered over the envelope. I didn't cover the inside because I'm figuring that's just going to stay like that. But I've put a rose stencil with some texture paste over top of the hymnal paper, and popped that on with some gauze. And I just think that's a lovely little piece of ephemera. So I've made a few of those, and I think I've got a few to go in this journal as well. There's another one here, very similar. Gorgeous pale creamy colour there. I love that. I love this one too. I don't even know how I made that colour, but it's really nice, because when I do my wax seals, I normally put a variety of colours in and come up with something that I like. So I couldn't really say truthfully how I made them as far as the colours go, because I can't remember. But yeah, and on the back of that you've got a little bit of my personal washi tape that I made. You can see that's part of the design there. It's just beautiful. I love it. It was taken off my table painting when I painted my table. I actually took a photo of it and then had some washi tape made, and the background came out a beautiful pale blue colour, which is, it's a real vintage sort of blue. and the pattern came out beautifully. So I've got 2 lots of that on my Etsy shop. One's a 30 millimeters, I think, and the other one's a 15 millimeter wide. But yeah, I sell those in different amounts anyway. So I'm very sparing with this type of washi tape, because once it's finished, you'll never get it again, and you can't get it anywhere else because it's my design. And so yeah, I try to incorporate it every now and then. Anyway, so that'll go in. Another one of those cutouts, and I've just printed this onto normal card in my computer, and through my computer rather, but I designed these frames, and the lady is one of the familiar women that many people know about, and I've popped her behind the beautiful spray of roses here and put the frame around it. So that'll go in, and that'll probably be another pocket. This is just a piece of watercolour card. It's quite sturdy, and I've just placed a couple of scrap bits of card on the side of it to tone in with the general vibe of the journal. So that'll go in as just a piece to write on. I made this out of pardon me, this is a paper that I bought a book of this paper. It's a 12 by 12, and it's got a variety of different papers in it, but when I went back to get some more, they'd sold out. So what I have is what I have, and I kind of regret using a lot of it. But what I've done is I've made out of this 12 by 12, I've made a little booklet. On the front of it, I've put one of my my flower, what are they called? I've got these on my Etsy store as stickers and die cuts, and I've done up a whole pile of A to Z flowers, and I've put their meanings on them and printed them up. But I printed this one up. I just sewed around the edge and popped some of that gorgeous vintage lace across the bottom there. And I'm just going to click my computer back on because my light's gone. And yeah, so I put that on the front as a pocket, and I'm just going to put that gorgeous seal in. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful three-dimensional bee. That'll go in the front there because it really tones in with the colours. But I'll show you, I do have a video on how to make these, and funny, I had to go back to my own video to remember how to make these because I just made this one the other day. I made a few of them, and I won't be using them all in this journal, but I'll be certainly popping this one in. So the inside is just the opposite side of the page. So you've got that on one side, and on the other side of the page you've got this lovely pattern here. And this is just another little piece of ephemera that I cooked up the other day. Just some embossed paper with that beautiful French paper there, and just made a little notelet out of it. These are vintage. A whole pile of them were given to me, and they're really old. So I thought I'll start using them rather than use glue. I'm going to use some vintage bits and pieces. Excuse me a minute, I'll just want to get this computer going again. It's just, yeah, my light sort of went because I've got my computer here and I've got a light, and I've got a really bright light in this room, and trying to work out the shadows and everything not to have the shadows. But yeah, so that little piece of ephemeral will probably go in there. This other little piece is just a lovely piece of card that I painted another one of my shabby roses on, and that can be just used as a note. That'll go in there. But in this, you've got the inside, which you can see, I think. It's got nothing in it at the moment, and I'm not sure what I'll do, whether I'll put anything in. I may do, may not. And these are the little pockets on each side. So you've got the lovely roses there, and that's the back. So yeah, I made that pocket, and I was actually going to do another video, but as I said, I haven't done any videos for quite some time because I've been busy quitting my job and making soap, which I actually love to do. But I want to show you the other two that I made for the other video. Here we go. This was the first one that I made, and I've just stuck some sari silk on the edge there with a bit of this gorgeous crazy thread, which is just so lovely. And I've used some mouldings that I made. So I did the painting first and then put the mouldings either side of it just to doody-dar it up a bit. And on the inside of this one, I've painted on each side here. Where are we? Here, here, and here. So this is amazing. I haven't listed this one yet. I was going to list it on Etsy for sale, but I don't know whether I want to part with it or not. But it's got some gorgeous little pieces of vintage paper with some stenciling with some texture paste. I've sewn in some journal pages just for journaling. So it is a mini journal. This little design here I made in a program that I had, and I've printed it up using my laser printer, and it's just, I love that design. I don't know if it fits into this journal, but that's where it's going to go. So that's just going to stay there. I think I'll put another one in there too. The centre hasn't got anything in it at all. That's for whoever wants to buy it. And there's another little picture of this gorgeous little girl. a different little girl, but a gorgeous little girl with a beautiful rose frame around again. So that's going there. Some more journal paper. Another one of these lovely pieces of envelopes that I've decorated with a bag from Woolies. So I use things that I hate to throw out. I hate the idea of throwing out these gorgeous bags that they give us with our groceries. And so I use them up. I use them to get rid of all my water bottles. I'm going to stash all my water bottles in them and get rid of them. But when I'm not doing that, I'm using them up in my journals. So you've got that in there. So that's just a nice little envelope again, just being decorated with that, and some more embossed paper and a lovely seal. And again, more of this gorgeous embossed paper in here. So that little journal, I think I'm going to put that on Etsy today. I think I'll have to part with it. But it's, yeah, it's just really sweet. So yeah, and that was done out of a 12 by 12 piece of paper, or card actually. It's not super thick card, but it's quite sturdy. You know, you can hear that, it's really quite sturdy. So yeah, I just love the little roses, the way they turned out. And yeah, just as I said, I love to paint, and I love to put a little piece of me in most things that I make. So a lot of my art, particularly my roses, now they're not meant to be real, people, so don't complain about my lack of artistic ability. I had one guy actually put a message on something that I'd painted, and he said, oh, they're not real. And I said, of course they're not real. And I think, oh my goodness, people have got so little to do, haven't they? Anyway, so, and this is the other one. I didn't paint in this one, I don't think. I'll open it up and show you in a minute. But again, the same, the sari silk on the end. Now, on this one, I haven't done that. I'm yet to think about what I'm going to do, but that's a pocket in there. Can see that there's a pocket which goes straight through to the other side there. So it can just be left as a pocket. I don't think I'll put journal paper in it because there's going to be enough in the journal. But yeah, that one will go in the journal. But this one, again, that same crazy thread. I don't know what you call it. I call it crazy thread, but it's just really cool. Another gorgeous little what would you call that, a moulding, and this one came from one of the IOD moulds, which I think is the Cameo and Frames or something. So that's where I got that one from, and I used not texture paste, but I used a modelling paste for that, and if I remember it, I'll put the link in the video anyway. And this here is just another sweet little mould using the same paste for that. This one here, okay, so it hasn't been painted per se, but I have put my lovely little forget-me-not spray in there, and this is just a little mini journal. Put there's a pocket in there on the side, more texture over this lovely vintage hymnal paper, and I've just stitched that in with just a hand sew. And that's just some journal paper there. It's really not meant to be a journal, it's just a little notelet. So that goes in there because it's got those gorgeous blue hues there. And the embossing I foolishly did after I'd made the journal. I should have actually done the embossing before I glued it all down. And actually, did I do that? I don't know. Anyway, it didn't work out the way that I thought it would, but it looks pretty cool, I think. And instead of just leaving that bare, that lovely silly thread goes beautifully there. So more journal pages there, more of the lovely card. I think this is a vintage card here, and I've just placed the texture paste over it. Put a lovely wax seal on that one, more embossing there. Again, you'll see on the inside you've got the pocket there. Another lovely moulding, more pieces of it's a texture paste over a stencil. I did that one. and just some more pages and another one of those lovely little hand-painted journals in the back. So I think I'm going to put that on Etsy as well. I'm going to have a bit of a job this afternoon to do that. So those two will go on Etsy today. This one will go in the journal. I did make a couple more. I don't think they're going to make this journal. Maybe this one might go in the journal also. This is just the bare bones of it as I made it. Pardon me, I've got a bit of a froggy throat this afternoon, but I love that paper. I love the gold on it, as well as the roses, are really beautiful vintage style roses. And so, yeah, I haven't decorated any of it yet, obviously, but I think that one might go in here as well. This one again, I don't think I'll put this one in. It just, for me, I just prefer this look rather than this for this journal, but I'll place this in another journal. So I was hot to trot the other day, made a few of these. This is another one that I made, which I initially thought for this journal, but when I thought about it, I thought, no, I prefer these two to go in, and I'm going to put some more ephemera in that. I'll put a moulding there. And I'll put some ephemera in that, and I'll probably place that on Etsy for sale at some point as well. So, yeah, had a little bit of a day making those. So, again, they'll go in the journal. I've got these pieces that I found online. I think it was the Graphics Fairy. I think you can get these frames through the Graphics Fairy printables, and what I did was I put the roses in them and printed them up on nice cards. So I'm going to pop these in this journal as a just make a journal pocket out of them, each of them. I might sew them down and, you know, flip them over, but they're only white on the back, so I think I'll just make journal pockets out of those. There's another one. And another one. I've got many more, but it took me, you know, quite some time to figure out what to do. But I love those frames because they do have a French vibe, like a Rococo style. But, yeah, I put roses on most of them, and they're not all pink, but I chose a few of the pink ones to go in this journal. I usually get frames and things like that and just create beautiful pictures out of them. So, yeah, going to get some of those. I've got more of these that I've painted, so there'll be at least a couple in this journal, and I'll just pop those aside. And this one I made, years ago. I just did a little painting of a rose, and I went around the outline of the centre and the leaves and everything with a fine pen, and put Today's Grace on it, just hand wrote that. So it's not perfect, but I like it for this journal. It's printed up just on card, and I think I'll just stick it in there somewhere. I've got two of them to go in this journal because I scanned my painting that I did, and I've just made these out of that. So these two will probably go in here somewhere, just as a little notelet. And the other things I have also aside here that will probably go in is this moulding. Now this is from an IOD mould, and I've just painted it inside. I've used a clay for this one, and yeah, so that'll go in because it just works well with everything else. I'll figure out how to do it, where to put it, and just another one of these beautiful mouldings in a pink, so that'll go inside. Yeah, I think, and apart from materials, you know, I've got quite a bit of this beautiful pink satin material, which is, that's a little bit that I'll cut off the end. It's a vintage, and you can see some of the staining still there on the vintage material. But, you know, that'll go in there somewhere. I'll put other materials and laces and doilies in here. But yeah, I just wanted to show you. It hasn't been brief. I thought it would be briefer than I've taken quite a bit of your time, but I appreciate you watching, and leave me a comment or ask me any questions if you feel so inclined to do. And I'm going to show you the finished product when it's finished. Okay, thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a lovely weekend.